I know you're doing well with, for those of you who don't know, Dan Aquino is a Met fan, and that's why I thought I'd represent my Yankees, and you have Juan Soto now, and I don't.
Hey, it's all about the money.
It's all right. We're gonna try and get Kyle Tucker. We'll be all right. We'll be all right.
Yeah, you got Max Fried. It's not bad.
We got Max Free. All right. Net killer, by the way. Um,
For now.
so yeah, we're 20 games into the NBA season, or a little bit more than that,
We're
and
like we're like 25 games in.
yeah,
Yeah.
so we're a quarter away through the year, and
Yeah.
this is the time where like you kind of see where teams really are, right? I know Bob Myers, the most overrated GM of all time. That's like a time where teams look at themselves and be like, okay, what do we need to do?
Yeah, for sure. By now you kind of have an idea of what your team is, and you start to look around and say, all right, what can we do to get better? Um, and then there's teams on the other end of the spectrum that are like, man, this ain't going well. And they look to maybe make drastic changes, or just start playing their young guys. We'll talk about a couple teams that are kind of they've been a disaster so far this season. I have a few teams, and we got some teams rebuilding, teams fighting for the play-in, and then we got some teams that are obviously going to be competitive playoff teams, and obviously the cream of the crop contenders. So let me know where you want to start.
All right, let's start with the disaster tier.
hmm
How many teams do you have in this tier?
I only put three teams in here.
I put seven.
Okay, I like that. I
But
like that.
tell me your
All
three
right.
teams.
I put Washington, Charlotte, and New Orleans.
Okay. I don't have Charlotte in there. Um,
I push Charlotte in there because it's another year where they're dealing with LaMelo Ball being hurt.
yeah. No, that's fair. Um, we'll talk about them. So I have seven teams here, and my definition of disaster is has many definitions. It's mostly like I don't see an out for these teams, and
Okay.
except for one, but one is so bad that I don't like. I just don't like the idea of any good player going to them, and that's the Wizards. Like I just feel for the draft pick that they're going to pick. Like if they get Cooper Flag or Ace Bailey, like I just feel like they're gonna go there and it's gonna be bad. Like you know what I mean? Or they're not gonna really build something. And I could be wrong. Maybe they're just really trying to tank and whatever. I don't know. But I just don't like when a team is that sorry and that crappy that and they really shouldn't be as bad as they are. Like I mean, like sometimes like you know what I mean? Like Jordan Poole's not a bad player, like Kuzma's not a bad player. I just
Pool's
don't
having a really good year.
yeah, like I just don't understand why they're so sorry. And I look at coaching, you know what I mean? Like why are
Yeah,
they bad? And you don't have to be this bad to be the worst team in the league, and yet they are. And I just don't get it with them. So the others I have the Sixers, I have the Pacers, I have the Pelicans, I have the Kings, I have the
wow.
Suns, and I have the Nuggets.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a
Well,
lot,
Matt,
right?
it's a good thing you gave your definition because
Yeah,
when to your definition that all makes sense because those are teams because like I put them like where they're gonna be like playing teams they'll be in there at the
yeah.
bottom of the playoffs those teams but those are all teams that are they have their roster obviously and you wonder how can you make this better especially when you look at Phoenix and Denver.
I look at it like this. If I'm a fan of these teams, I'm going nuts. Like I'm so upset. I'm disappointed. I'm trying to think, where do we go from here? And I don't see many outs. Like I look at the Sixers, like this is supposed to be their final product. And
hmm
with Embiid, I mean, I called it going into this year, and I think you were ahead of the curve when you picked the Knicks to beat the Sixers last year. Like we just don't trust Embiid anymore. Like we just don't. And then the Pacers, I mean, a big reason, like, okay, so I don't have the Timberwolves in disaster tier. I think a lot of people would have the Timberwolves in that. The reason why I don't have them, but I have the Pacers, is because their best player, their best foundational piece, may not be that good in Halliburton.
Mm,
Like we might be
yeah.
discovering maybe he's just not that great. I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, they're a curious case. Um, that's what I'm starting to believe. I don't want to like just label him like that so easily, especially because I obviously don't like Halliburton, obviously just for Knicks reasons.
Right.
But he had that incredible month and a half last season, and I think it got everyone super excited about how good he was, and the Pacers were rolling. And then when they got Siakam, they kept winning games, and they were like the best offensive team like ever when you looked at their offensive rating. And he didn't play well the second half of last season, and it was kind of just all the hamstring injury. It's kind of, lingering. It's hurting him. But we're in a new season now, and he still looks that way. So that's a huge problem if you're the Pacers, because they have like all these young guys. None of them are really stars. You brought in Siakam, and he's kind of not been as good I think they thought he would be. He's averaging like 18, 19 points per game. Good enough to be like your second best player. But if Halliburton's averaging 18 and 8, which is what he's averaging this season compared to the 20 and 11 I think he was averaging last season, you get a recipe where this team is now no longer scoring as much as they did last season. They're playing slower than they did last season, and they're still just as bad as a defensive team as they were last season. And that's where you get all these losses.
And I think like they got trades to make. Like they have a lot of interesting players on the team.
Hmm.
Just my biggest thing is just Halliburton. And a lot of people point to that month and a half. I think it goes back even more. Like remember how shocking the Pacers got off to a really good start the year before that. And they're like, whoa, we thought the Pacers are going to be one of the worst teams in the league. And then all of a sudden they look pretty good. And Halliburton looks really good. And then Halliburton gets injured. And then the rest of the season goes into a tailspin. Like he was awesome that year. And then
Hmm.
last year, a month and a half in, he's amazing. And then I guess we thought, like, okay, like I hate how non-aggressive he is, especially like on the
Yeah,
road. Have you seen like his road numbers? They're significantly worse.
yeah. It's weird. I think he's shooting like 28% from three on the road. His numbers all across the board are down on the road. It just doesn't make sense with him being like the conductor of this offense that he's just so passive. And I know he's a good passer and he has a lot of, bright talent around him, but they need you to be more and you have to be more aggressive.
100%. And like I just and the Siakam thing, I get why they made the move. I was pro the move.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
but it might not be the greatest fit. Um, I think I'm a little hesitant to say that was a bad move because they did go to the conference finals with him on the team.
Very true.
Clearly, as I think the Matherin thing is interesting. Like why like
Oh yeah.
he's back and they're not better. I
And
don't
there's
know.
apparently some like
I don't know why he's not getting the Cam Thomas treatment, but what
how
happened?
long did how long did that take? 12 minutes?
Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
you know who would be really good on the Pacers? Cam Thomas. He would really make them better. No, so I'm a little stunned how bad they've been this year. They're 10 and 15, I think, right?
Yeah,
Not
they're
good.
1-4 so far this month. And they just lost to Charlotte, who had like their whole starting five out, except for Brandon Miller.
They're not good.
Um,
And I could be like, all right, they're playing caliber. They were supposed to be better than playing caliber this year. And
yeah.
I'm looking at the rest of the East, and I'm like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna. Are they capable? Yeah, but I don't know.
I think they'll get in there just because
I mean, just jumping into like the top six.
that I mean no, I don't think so. Uh given some team, really does bad. Milwaukee's been improving. They'll probably be okay. Miami's hanging in there. We'll see if they do anything. But really, they're in the playing spot right now. The only team that's like also there that can pick them out is Detroit, um, who's been better as than expected. Uh, got a good win against my Knicks the other day.
Yeah, yeah. We'll get to them.
I'm trying to think, who else did you have on that list
So
that we
let's
didn't
talk about
talk
the Celtics.
about?
Let's talk about the Pelicans because we had them.
The Pelicans. I mean,
Yeah.
5-20.
I kind of feel
That
bad for David Griffin because it's like I
yeah.
understand the team. Like I look at the team and I'm like, these guys should be so much better, and they're just not. And I think when you have that, and I don't think Willie Green is like a bad coach either. I think like,
No.
you know what, he'll probably be fired. Like I look at them and it really just boils down to the fact that their stars are never healthy. And Zion is never healthy. And when Zion is playing and like now they got the thing is like Ingram and Zion 2 years ago were playing well together. Now you're in this point where Zion's been hurt so much and you've delayed this rebuild basically for so long now. Now Ingram is like, I want to get paid. So now his intentions are different. And now we had a whole offseason where they were trying to trade him and nobody wanted him. And so
Mhm.
now it doesn't feel the same. Like an Ingram Zion duo could have been really good 2 years ago and was playing really well 2 years ago. But the injuries have delayed things so much that now it's like, all right, well, Ingram isn't, his intentions are different. Like he wants to get paid. It's not all about winning now. And now, like, all these guys are really, it's also a really young team. And I know they got like CJ McCollum in there, but he's a guard that doesn't play defense. And there's so many teams that don't want a guard anymore that doesn't play defense that's making the money he's making. So they're a disaster. And the Murray thing, I mean, we got to look at DeJounte Murray now. I mean, what is he at this point? Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, DeJounte Murray breaking his hand in the first game of the season
Yeah, not
was
ideal. I get it.
not ideal, and it was second to happen. You're like, man, is this gonna be again? And
Mhm.
then Zion's not ready, and they don't even know when he's gonna be ready. And then it's really bad. It's another season down the drain, it seems. And you would assume Ingram, they're gonna find a way to move him because that's what he wants. He wants out. And you do have some young players on this team that are very good. Trey Murphy the third. You got Jose Alvarado still there. Brandon Boston Jr.'s come in and played a little bit. Um, Jordan Hawkins. Like this team healthy, would you would assume would be a competitive team in the West. They just never are. And after year after year after year seeing that,
Mhm.
what are you left to do? I think this is finally the season. Maybe it comes all apart. It sucks for Willie Green. It does suck for David Griffin as well. Um, they came into the season without a big. I think that maybe is the one thing you could blame David Griffin for. They had Valanciunas leave and they never signed another big. But when you have this much injuries and you're in a tough Western Conference, there's really not much you can do. Um,
And think about
there's
it, like, the best version of them playing, maybe.
yeah, like a seventh, eighth seed
I
basically.
look at I look at Ingram and he wants out. And if I'm Ingram, I'm like, you gotta kind of look at yourself in the mirror here because like the team is talented and the team is not playing well. And yeah, they've had injuries. Yeah, your sidekick's never around. And I get it, but they should be better.
They
And then
shouldn't be this bad. 5-20. They
yeah,
should not be this bad.
exactly. And a lot of it is on him. So if you're another team and you're like, all right, what are we trading for Brandon Ingram, who turned down? Didn't he turn down 50 million?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Possibly. Possibly did.
So he turned out a contract extension with Pelican.
Oh, yeah, you probably did. Yeah, that's probably right.
I think he is. He was a playing. He was the best player on a playing team that I think won 34 games, maybe 32, and they had a 6 game series with Phoenix, and then
Yeah,
they were the 1 seed in January in 2023. Like that's what you have to sell yourself. I
basically.
I don't know.
Yeah, he's a volume scorer that needs the ball. Has shown his other than the I guess the little time he's been with Zion, not being able to mix with other star players. So it's like if he wants to go to a contender, what contender is going to give up valuable pieces to bring in someone like Brandon Ingram, where you kind of have to cater to his play style for him to work out? It's a tough situation, which is why they had trouble trading him all summer.
So let's get into the Kings. Wow, what a difference Jordy Fernandez makes. Did you notice that? Um, it just seems like Fox is out of there. It just
Yeah, him not signing the extension was a little surprising.
I
And
get it from his perspective because it's like
yeah, makes sense, yeah.
just like the team is 500, and like I don't know, I don't know though. Like if Fox is as good as we say, like they should be better. Like I don't understand. Like he's got that team is talented. And
They're just still like the same team. Like I thought adding DeRozan maybe would give them something else, but he's just another scorer at the end of the day, and that's never been their problem. Their problem is that defensively they can't stop anybody.
and he's
And Sabonis at times, as great as Sabonis is, isn't always the doesn't always have the impact of a second best player that you would need to be a really good team in the Western Conference. And I think De'Aaron Fox is really good. But the Kings, it's looking like that one season when they won 48 games. That was kind of like just flash in the pan. They just were really good that year, and now they're kind of just the same team, and everyone's kind of figured it out. Because when I watch them, they look the same, even with DeRozan.
they were healthy that year.
Yeah.
They were basically the most durable team in the league, which is why they got to three. They were faster than everybody, and they shot a shit ton of threes. And DeRozan's not a 3-point shooter. DeRozan's
Nope.
not going to play as fast as that, and the defense is not good enough to not play that way. You know what I mean? Like it's just not.
Hmm.
So I don't think the Halliburton move was bad in hindsight because look at how Halliburton's playing. Look at how Fox. They probably made the right decision.
No,
You
yeah.
find yourself in this situation where it's like, now what do we do?
Hmm.
And that's like it's tough. It's the why building a team in the NBA is so hard, and it's why building a team specifically in Sacramento is so hard because I feel
It's
like they
yeah.
haven't
Go
made
ahead.
the wrong decisions on anything.
Hmm.
They're here.
It's low key. It's low key the hardest position to be in. Like, because you really don't know which way to go, what to do. When you're bad, you know, all right, let's just be bad. Draft picks, try to get better, young talent. When you're good, obviously, it's try to get the best, players around your stars, and you win. When you're like in the middle, it's like, what do we do? And a lot of teams get stuck there, and they spend a lot of time there. And the Kings are kind of in that mode where they might just be stuck there, and they can't be because De'Aaron Fox can become a free agent if he wants to leave. He goes, then what do you do with Sabonis? Then it all kind of falls apart. And Sacramento was so bad for so long. They did such a terrible job of building around DeMarcus Cousins, in the 2010s. You finally got a good team around some young players. You don't want to mess this up, but it's you got to figure out what you got to do.
Yeah, and you know what's unfortunate too is like if they really needed to draft Luca. Sometimes it comes down to stuff like that. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
and it's not the current regime's fault because they weren't in charge at the time, but they could have paired De'Aaron Fox and Luka Doncic, and then the Kings were talking about them for the next 15 years. And Luka, you know what I mean? Like that's what you got to do
yeah,
in Sacramento. You got to nail the draft. And since then, they've done a good job in the draft. They've drafted probably the best players where they've been able to draft. Kind of like my situation with the New York Giants right now. It's why I've defended Joe Shane in times because, like, yeah, the quarterback's not there. And they went with Neighbors, who's a stud. But,
hmm,
like,
sure.
they gotta, they gotta, it comes down to, like, yeah, you gotta draft the difference maker. And that's not what the Kings have done. It's not their fault. They should not fire anybody. I don't think they should fire anybody.
No, I think Mike Brown's a good coach.
Yeah,
I
like
think
they shouldn't. I just think
it's just where they are,
All right, let's talk
unfortunately.
about the Suns and the Nuggets.
Okay.
Here's the thing with the Suns.
Okay.
Um, this is exactly what I thought last year was going to be. Only
Hmm.
Durant was healthy.
Now
So
he's not.
now he's not.
No, he's not.
I said this all last year. I was like, the Durant injury is coming, and it never did. And they were still super disappointing. Now they actually look much better. Like they
They
play much
did.
better.
Yeah, they did.
Budenholzer is a significant upgrade at the coach. They got a point guard. They seem to like when they all three of them are playing, it's all great. Oh my God. And they found these little depth pieces. They literally did everything right. And they're worse because Durant's not playing. And I think you got
Crazy.
to look at Booker and be like, yo, can you
Hmm.
take care of business while Durant is gone? This is the problem with Durant. And I said this last year, and it probably didn't get too much notoriety because it's like not a lot of people were saying it because he was healthy. This year, he's not. And the thing that Durant doesn't understand is like, it's kind of why I was annoyed at him when he requested out of Brooklyn because a big reason he requested out was because they were so bad when he was not playing. And it's like, dude, like you are a big reason why the team looks the way it does. And you got to understand that the team is going to look really bad or significantly worse when you're not playing. And that's what Phoenix looks like. So I put
Yeah.
some blame on him.
I mean, you get hurt. But at the same time, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. The move he made to the Suns, then them trading all that they did for Beal, you thin out the team to the point where it's your three stars and a bunch of guys on vet minimums, kind of. And Nurkic has been god awful. I mean, that couldn't have worked out any worse for them. Him being basically unplayable against certain teams, especially the better teams.
Mhm.
Trey Jones was a good pickup. They did it like you mentioned. They did everything right. It seemed this offseason. They got Budenholzer. They looked so good offensively when they were all playing earlier in the season. I think they were winning a lot of the games. They were like 10-4 at one point. As soon as KD goes down, they just start losing a bunch of games. And you look at Devin Booker, like, hey, this guy used to be the best player on this team. This team did go to a finals.
Yeah.
How much was that really because of him or because of Chris Paul and all the other pieces they had around and Monty Williams? Because the fact that they're struggling to win games and we think Devin Booker is this great player. I mean, I've had arguments with people talking about he's a top 10 player before. And I was like, I don't think so. And it's stuff like this that makes you see why. Because them being 500, I know the West is a tough, very tough conference, but they're not winning games. They're losing games that they should be winning. They lost to Miami the other day. They were going toe to toe. They lost to the Pelicans. Like they're losing games that they shouldn't lose just off talent alone.
Yeah. Well, um, would you say Devin Booker is way better than Cam Thomas?
Way better.
Because here's what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying.
I don't think he's way better. He's
They're one and
better, but
nine.
not way better.
They're 1-9 without Durant. Okay,
Yikes! I actually did not know that. One,
I
I knew
believe
they've been losing,
believe
but
that I believe that's the case. They're 1-9 without him or something like that.
1-9.
Yeah, they're really bad without him. So I think they're like a game over 500 too. They're like 13-12.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
they're 12-11, but same thing.
12 and 11. Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
So let me just ask you this.
Mm.
Take Cam Johnson off the Nets, put Durant on the Nets. Are they a better team than the Suns team?
Take Cam Johnson off the Nets
Yeah, because that
and
came
put him on the Suns. Put KD on the Nets. Are the Suns better than the Nets?
like is this Suns team better than that Nets team with Durant on them? Well, you got Schroeder, Cam Thomas, Kevin Durant, Finney Smith, whatever, Simmons,
N-
Claxton.
No,
Yeah,
no, no, they're not.
is the coach. I mean, this is where Durant doesn't think things through. You know what I mean?
Right.
This is where
Kevin Durant with this Nets team is pretty good. They're right there in the playoff mix.
they're probably not a championship contender.
No, but they're definitely a playoff team.
But
Definitely a playoff team.
I mean, this Nets team freaking fights, and Cam Thomas is as good a scorer as Devin Booker is. We're being real at this.
The
Yeah,
numbers say so. Yeah.
I mean that's the numbers. I
Right.
would probably tell you Devin Booker is better than Cam Thomas. I'm not here to
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
like Devin Booker is better than Cam Thomas. He's done more in this league. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's not. But just look at those numbers and tell me why, if you just put Durant on the Nets and can't take Cam Johnson off, they're like, in my opinion, a more consistent, better team. They would win probably without Durant in the lineup.
Hmm.
And that's what Phoenix doesn't do. All right, that's enough with the Nuggets.
Denver,
Yeah,
Denver.
it's really this. I think what we've done with the Nuggets is really as simple as this. We overrated their core from the beginning around Jokic. I just think Murray was never the Murray looks worse. Don't get me wrong. Like this isn't the same Murray. Um, but Michael Porter Jr. I think we all thought was going to take this leap, and he never did. And Aaron Gordon is a good player. And then they lost Bruce Brown, and they like these are Jeff Green I liked, and I did think we just overrated the team. I think there were a lot of people. I think there were a lot of guys that just benefited playing with Jokic, and then they never got better.
Yeah, it hurts them slowly losing the pieces. And it's like, oh, boo-hoo, but like it's kind of their fault because you gave the big max extension to Michael Porter Jr., who probably doesn't deserve it, probably isn't good enough for it, and the same thing with Jamal Murray. So like you banked on those two guys being really good next to Jokic for years to come, and you said, all right, we could lose some of those other veterans that we had, and we could bring in some young guys like Christian Brown and Peyton Watson and Strother, all these young guys that they're now trying to play and trying to get to carry the slack. And it's not working out because Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray are having not so great seasons. Jamal Murray, he looked like this in the Olympics, and I thought it was just maybe the Olympics, but it's kind of carried over into the season, and it's really hurt them. And then you bring in, you still got DeAndre Jordan on the bench. They played him the other day against the Knicks. I was like, whoa, 2024, DeAndre Jordan. They never really got a backup big. They brought in Sarge too, I think, but they can't survive the minutes Jokic sits like at all. Like Michael Malone said, he prays when he sits Jokic down on the bench. When Jokic plays, they're still great. He's still great. They're gonna find a way to give him the MVP again. That's a different conversation for a different day. But this team is not the same team at all, and it seems like they're progressively getting worse. I don't know how much Jokic can make up for the deficiencies they have on the rest of that roster, especially their bench.
The Russell Westbrook narrative just seems to get worse. Just like he just seems to be.
He hasn't been terrible. I think they're actually like 4-1 when he starts,
Yeah, but
but it's just not.
why does every team he goes to get worse? Basically,
It's a great question. I don't know.
it's not like the
I mean,
Clippers.
I do know, but like it's just who he is
It's
at
not
this
like the
point.
Clippers are doing way worse without him.
No, they're
They're
not.
getting
They're
better.
actually
They're
they're
doing.
doing all right.
Kawhi doesn't even play.
Yeah,
I
Kawhi's
mean,
played not at all. He hasn't played at all. Harden
we'll get to the
still being
Clippers.
Harden.
We'll get to the Clippers. I find them very interesting. Um, I still don't think they're like going anywhere, but like it's interesting with them. All right, rebuild teams. How many teams do you have here?
Rebuilding teams. I put Utah, Portland, Toronto. Uh, I put Detroit in there, even though they couldn't make the play-in. And I put your Brooklyn Nets because
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think you're keeping all these guys.
yeah. Don't worry about it.
I don't.
I got Raptors, Hornets, Nets, Jazz, Blazers. So the Hornets I have in there. I think we didn't talk about the Hornets, and you had them in disaster, right? Yeah, listen, the Lamelo thing is whatever, but um, I think they'll have the ability to draft somebody really good um, this year, and I think I like Brandon Miller a lot, and I think they have outs, and I think Lamelo they can find someone to trade Lamelo. They could get somebody to get Lamelo if they really want to. Um, so that's really my thing on the whole. I don't want to spend too much time on rebuild. Um,
Yeah, I mean
Raptors,
it's pretty self-explanatory. These are teams that aren't good.
yeah.
Um, Toronto is a
Well,
fun
let's
watch.
let's let's slow down on the not good thing.
I didn't say Brooklyn yet. I was gonna say Toronto's a fun watch.
Are
RJ
you
Barrett's
right?
having a great year. Yeah, because they're like competitive against every single team. They there's like it's a joke that they're just ethical tanking because they're super competitive, and then the last 3 minutes they just throw the game, and
I
they
think
let
it's
teams like
I think it's so funny how Nick fans for years talked about RJ Barrett and then compare that to how they talk about Cam Thomas. It's just like, all right,
Yeah.
well, RJ Barrett is RJ Barrett. That's somebody who's a good stats bad team guy. RJ Barrett.
Mm.
I'm not saying you can't put him on a good team. I'm just saying he cannot be
Right.
a
Yeah.
top three player on your team. So yeah, the Raptors. I also think at the beginning of the year they were sending a message, yeah, we want to lose. So
Mhm.
not shocking there. They were also really bad in the second half of last year. So that's why I had them here. Even though I like a lot of the players on the team. Um,
Quickly hasn't played a lot, which is
yeah, I mean the Knicks
something.
there. I think the Jazz got to be careful, man. Like Will Hardy called a timeout, like when Colin Sexton I think was going to win the game. Like you can't. They're doing
I'm
the right.
telling you, they're doing the right thing, but they're making it more obvious than they did last season. They
You
were doing it last season too, where like close game, fourth quarter, all right, let's sit Laurie Markkinen for like 6 minutes. Let's sit Colin Sexton for the whole fourth quarter. It's like, all right, you're trying to not win the game because they have young talent. They wouldn't be a playing team, I don't think, but they wouldn't be as bad as they have been so far. But they're not trying to win.
you got to be careful. This is what my issue with tanking sometimes. It's like you could ruin things, but they're doing the right thing, like because they've. I think they've done a pretty good job the last 2 years. I think Hardy's a good coach. I think they got a lot of good talent on the team, but and they play very competitively, but they need that big piece, and I think that's
Yep.
losing. I think I know. So I think it's fine, but it's just something to keep an eye on
Yeah,
because you don't want to do that where you just alienate your team.
for sure.
And then the Blazers, kind of the same deal. I just don't like. I almost thought about putting the Blazers in disaster, even though they're fun,
Really?
because
I mean,
no, I know, but only because I think the Scoot Henderson pick is,
oh, yep.
and
That's not,
I
yeah.
think they have no outs with Ayton, and I just don't like Chauncey Billups as a coach.
Mm.
I just don't like him as a coach. I think he's just not that good. And I'm not gonna put him there because they're rebuilding. You gotta. This is their. It's their second year of rebuilding, but it's kind of not. I like a lot of the players on the team. I think there's a lot of people you can trade. I think there's a lot of people like, they're trying to lose. They're trying to get that real franchise guy. But the Scoot thing scares me. And like you really need to nail the co-star, and I don't know if they have yet. And you got to nail the coach, and I don't know if Phillips is good. So,
Yeah, I agree.
are we good on the rebuild teams?
Yeah, we're pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Playing's a big group of
Quickly
teams, so
go. Let's just quickly go through the play-in teams, and then part two, we'll go over the playoff contenders. And
hmm
all right, play-in teams. Um, Pistons, Bulls, Heat, Spurs,
hmm
Clippers, Lakers. Like definitive play-in teams, in my opinion. Like I don't see them really getting better. Any thoughts on that? Like I said, I
Yeah,
think
I have all those teams. Spurs, I think we're gonna get in there. I think they've been really good. Wemby's been good. Chris Paul, everywhere he goes, he makes them better the first year he's there, and that's kind of what's been going on. Clippers have surprised me.
just 1 second. I just want to say
Yeah,
something about Spurs. Chris Paul's really weird because it's kind of he's kind of like Westbrook, but completely the opposite. Like,
he's the opposite. Yeah.
he's been on like 80 teams the last few years, but each year they get better. And I had this funny conversation with my brother. He's like, well, except the Warriors. The Warriors didn't get better than Chris Paul. And
Right.
actually, if you look, they got more wins last year than the year before.
Oh, really?
They won
Well,
40.
yeah, they definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the seeding was different. So I think they
Yeah.
were the sixth seed and they won 44 games the year
And
before.
they won 46 last
And
year.
they won 46 last year and they were 10. So it feels
Yeah.
like they got worse, but they technically didn't.
That's funny.
Chris Paul is just he's everywhere, like, but these teams get better. And look at Phoenix without Paul. How they been?
hmm
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
you're right.
it's fascinating to look at it like that. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say to the Clippers, surprising to me. I didn't think I had them. I think missing the playoffs, and they're in there right now. They're the sixth seed. They're 14-11. Um, Harden can still do it. You know, it's not. I know you don't want to hear it, but
Harden, here's the thing. Here's the thing. He's in the perfect spot. He's happy.
mhm.
Team is okay, and they're never going to win a championship.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Did you
I
see
think
his
everyone.
sacrifice comment?
His what? What he's
He
what?
talked about sacrificing and that he did it for a little bit and he'll never do it again or something like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sacrifice. He sacrificed for 10 seconds. 10 seconds. He sacrificed.
I think he lumped in Philly in there too. That like he
No, I
decided
get
to play point guard and
it. Sacrificed for 10 seconds. Maybe should be sacrificing at this point in his career pretty much every year, and he's not doing that. And that's why he's on a team that's not going to go anywhere. Although I find them interesting. If Kawhi comes back and he's like good, you know,
Mhm.
it could be interesting. Like a playoff threat of a team rather than a play-in team. But his knee is cooked, I think, and
If Kawhi come,
yeah,
I'm having doubts of
yeah.
how much Kawhi can even play at this point.
But they
If what they say about his knee is that bad.
yeah, but they nailed not bringing back Paul George. I mean,
Yep.
they saw it before anybody else did, I feel. And I think a lot of people were like, why didn't they just bring back Paul George? And I think we just realized Paul George is like just as a player, he's just full of shit. You know, he's just the guy that's just he's doing his podcast, and I really don't like the players that do the podcasts during the season, especially
During
when
the
you're
season now.
Especially when you're Paul George. Like
Yeah.
the team is a disaster, and you're out. Dude, he's been worse than Mikal Bridges. I'm sorry, I had to put that out there. He hasn't been good,
No,
and
it has not been that at all.
he's doing podcasts. He's like, we need to get our shit together. It's like, yeah, how about you get your shit
You get it together for
on?
sure.
All right. So I think we may have to hit on the other plans in part two, but
Yeah.
yeah. All right, we're gonna do that right now.